Hi, hello, Miss Steele here. So this week we have been talking about abstract art, which is a lot of times non-objective, which means that it doesn't really have to look like anything. It can just be exploring colors and shapes and lines. So what we're going to be doing is making our own big piece of abstract art. So for this project, you want a white piece of paper, a pencil and an eraser, and then you want some sort of markers. I have some pens and a skinny marker and a black marker, so you want something to add lines up with at the end. I also have some markers. And then you want something to color in with. I'm going to be using paints, but you can use whatever you have. But if you're using paints, you want your paints, water cup, paintbrush. And if you don't have paints, you could just use markers or crowns or whatever you have. But I'm going to set these aside. And then I also have these two sheets, which show me a bunch of different shapes inspired by Kandinsky, and then some lines we can add at the bottom. And then a bunch of shapes inspired by Henri Matisse, which were two abstract artists. So I'm going to look at these, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to fill in my paper as much as I can with different lines and shapes. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It's kind of just exploring lines and shapes and colors. But I have my two example sheets next to me just to kind of help me with inspiration. And what I want to do is fill up this paper with a bunch of different shapes and lines. I'm going to try to make them not overlap, but just put them next to each other. So I think I'm going to start out with this red swirl inspired by Matisse. And then I'm just going to keep going in and filling in different organic and geometric shapes. And so you're going to do the same to your paper, is just fill it up with shapes that you like. And you can use what colors you like as well, because we've went over shapes and lines and colors before. You can even turn your paper while you're working as well, so they kind of go in different directions, so they're not all in the same direction. So maybe I'll flip my paper this way. And again, looking at my two paper examples for different shape ideas. Here's my Matisse. We have talked about organic and geometric shapes, so you can add in both. You just want to add in some different shapes. Maybe right here, I'll add in a line, because that is other things you can do as well. And you want to get your paper completely filled up, and what we're going to do as our second step is we're going to go back and add some more like line designs or details to these using those markers that I showed you earlier, or pen or colored pencil, really whatever you have. So I'm going to keep going through and filling this in, and then we'll check in on it, and then we'll be able to move on to our next step. So again, I'm trying to make it to where they're not like overlapping, but they're close together. And how you add things in is kind of up to you with your shapes and your lines. You just want to have it filled up with different colors and shapes and lines. So I'm going to keep going, and then we're going to look at this whenever I'm going to go set it to dry. Alright, so I have this pretty much done. What I did first was I added in some bigger shapes, and then I went back and I added in some more lines and my smaller shapes to fill up any gaps that I feel like needed a little bit of spice What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go find a place for this to dry, and then once it's all dried, we're going to kind of look at these Kandinsky lines, and as well just any lines that kind of come to our mind, and we're going to decorate this a little bit more with some lines just to give it some more detail. So we're going to go set this to dry, and then we'll work on our next step.